Good afternoon and welcome into Crown Corner. Don't have Willie P with me today, but that's okay because it's an English invasion. Nathan Byrne, one of the newest signings for Charlotte FC, joins me on Crown Corner. Nathan, how are you doing? First impressions of Charlotte?
Yeah, I'm loving it. Really excited to be here. I've had a great welcoming from all the team and the staff. So yeah, I'm buzzing for the signing and looking forward to get going.
So obviously you played in England your whole career. Why MLS now? Why that jump across the pond?
I think the difference. I think they're so different, and even how the league's set up, the games, the travelling, everything's so different to what I've been used to. So I just wanted a new challenge, and I think that MLS is the best sort of challenge I can get.
And how do you think MLS is changing as a perception back home now? It's a credible league. Have you seen the growth of outside perception of MLS during your time in England too?
Yeah, definitely. I think when I started playing 10, 12 years ago, nothing was televised at the MLS really. You didn't even really see the games in England, whereas now it's everywhere. And I think you're seeing the more and more high-profile players that are coming over here. Just says everything you need to know about the league.
So I think you've spent a bit of time in Charlotte already, had an opportunity to catch a couple of the games so far. What's your impressions of this team as a whole?
Young, energetic, a lot of talent. I think the manager's building a good mixture between youthfulness and experience. And yeah, there's a lot of talent in that dressing room. I've only been in training for 3 or 4 days now, but I can already see that, and I can see there's high quality players here.
I think you alluded to it a little bit earlier on about some of the differences between, the English Championship playing in England and MLS. What do you think some of the biggest challenges are going to be for you trying to slot into that different cultural league?
Most of all, probably the heat. I've been training the last few days, and after the warm-up, you're just drenched in sweat, which is not what you're used to in England. You can go for a whole training session without sweating, basically, because it's so cold. But the heat, definitely. There's a lot of tactics here. I think it might be a little less physical than the Championship. That's probably because there's less games. But no, there's a lot of high-quality players that can punish you in this league. I've seen that already in the team games I've watched. I've been impressed with the team. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of high-quality individuals here that you got to look out for.
So let's talk a little bit about your career so far. Obviously, spent the last 2 years at Derby County. What have been some of the best experiences, though, during your career as a whole as a professional footballer?
Promotion with Wigan. That was a good one for me. I think when I first moved to the Championship with Wolves, that was a big moment for me when I was younger. Got to a player final. Don't want to talk about that one because that didn't go very well.
I'm a Reading fan, so I know all about playoff misery.
Yeah, we got destroyed in the final 4-0 when I was at Swindon. I've just had a lot of moments. I had an FA Cup run with Wigan. We beat Man City, West Ham. Trying to think another team. But yeah, we beat 3 or 4 Premier League teams. So yeah, I've had great moments. I've had tough moments. I think most people who've played the majority of their career in the Championship will say the same thing because it's such a level league. To be honest, anyone could beat anyone. That's true. It's literally on your day who's the better team. So yeah, a lot of ups and downs.
I don't want to focus too much on the downs, but I think I'd be amiss not to talk about Derby County a little bit. Obviously, went into last year with that huge points deduction. What do you think you learned about yourself as a player and being on a team when you had to face that adversity instantly down 21 points at the start of the season?
I don't think I learned much that I already didn't know, to be honest, because I know what sort of player and what I bring to a team. The team at Derby last year was very similar to this team. There was 10, 15 out of the 25-man squad who were under 21. So we had a really young team. So it was more about me being a leader and talking to the young lads, because it's very tough for some of them. It's their first year or two in the game and they've got a minus 21 points deduction and we're trying to fight the world to get out of it. So I learned a lot about my teammates, and I think that in a strange way, it was a really enjoyable season for me, because when you see, it's quite cliche, but when you get adversity and things thrown against you, you do come together. That's just a natural thing. So I think the staff and the players there, we were all such a strong unit to try and get over the impossible, that it was actually a really, really enjoyable year, despite what was happening.
And I think you got player of the season. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And what does that mean, having that recognition, not just from fans, but from players? How nice is it that your fellow professionals view you as a leader inside your team?
Yeah, I think it's probably one of the best accolades you can get, to be honest. Even more so than the fans, I think, because they see 45, 50 games a season for 90 minutes, but your teammates see you day in, day out, more than you see your family. You see your teammates, you're with them every day. It's an honour to win that. I got it a couple times when I was at Wigan as well. So I'd like to think I'm a nice guy, a hard worker, and that's all you can really be. Give everything.
About that. Yeah. What else would you say are qualities about you as a player? Hard worker, leadership. What do you think is special about your playing style?
I think I can adapt to a lot of things. I take information in well. And I think that's my biggest strength, is because throughout my career, mostly it's been at fullback or wing back, but in those roles, I've had 7, 8 different jobs during my career. So every manager has their own interpretation on what they want. And my job, I think, that I try and do quite well is what the manager wants, I try and give them to my best ability, which is not always the easiest thing to do. Because sometimes you don't agree with everything the manager says. That's just natural. So I think I try and do what my teammates and my manager wants from me, like I said, to the best of my ability.
And I think one thing we've noticed about Lattanzio's style with his fullbacks is they like to pinch in sometimes, very aggressive going forward. Do you feel like that's something that you're comfortable doing?
Yeah, definitely. I think when I played my last year, it's quite kind of worked out well, because under my old manager at Derby last year, it was the same sort of role. So when the ball's on the other side, I'm becoming the second midfielder, the second six, and so I've sort of I'm accustomed to that role already. And before I signed here, the week before I signed, I had a good chat with the manager, and we spoke for 90 minutes probably. And we had a great chat, and I sort of understood. I'm still learning what he wants, obviously, but I understood the main goals that he wants from his fullbacks.
And I've asked, or had a lot of people ask me to ask you as well, right back, but can you play on the left side as well? Are you flexible with that?
Like I said, I tried. I think I can do most things, and whatever the manager wants, I'll try and give it. Basically, like I said, mostly 95% of my career I've played on the right, but I have played left back. I've ended up centre back some games, centre midfield, literally. But I try and give my all for the team and do my job.
Team player, versatility, checking a lot of boxes. In terms of that locker room, you got a fellow Englishman in there in Anton Walkes. I believe you've also crossed paths with Kamil Jozwiak at Derby County as well. How helpful is it to have people that understand where you're from and people that you've crossed paths with during your career?
Yeah, I think it does help in the first week or so, especially when you don't know anyone. Because you have to make new connections, new friendships, learn about people, what they like, what they don't like. And obviously, if you know people, I spoke to Kamil before I even signed and said, what's it like over there? And he had positive things to say about the city as a whole, not just the club. And I've seen that since I've come here. First few days, everyone's a lot more open than they are back home. What I'm used to, you know. In London, you walk straight and don't really talk
Keep
to
your
anyone.
head down. Keep your head down.
And look straight. That's just a natural thing. But here, everyone says hello. Everyone wants to say, "How's your day going? How are you?"
A lot of hugging as well, right? There's a lot of physical contact that you're not used to.
Yeah, exactly. So no, I'm enjoying it, and what I've seen of the city so far, it's really positive.
What do you think you'll miss most about being home? Food, family, any of those kind of things?
To be honest, they've put me in the middle of Uptown, and there's I'm sport for choices when it comes to food, so it's quite enjoyable actually. Yeah, I'm not sure. There's not really much I'll miss because most of it's here. Maybe a good roast dinner, but that's about it.
Yes, it's very difficult to find good gravy as well.
I can imagine. Yeah, the roast dinner, I'd say.
Okay, Anton Walk said Worcester sauce French fries are his favorite crisps. What's your favorite crisps?
I can't even answer that. That's like asking my favorite film. Or I'm a
You've got to
passionate
pick
crisp.
one. Nathan, come on. Pick me a pack of crisps.
I can't even, sweet chili sensations.
Oh, I've got some. I've got some at home. I'll make sure I bring them down for you.
Yeah, they're good. They get stuck in your teeth, but they're good.
But they're so tasty. All right, new team. A lot of teams do initiations. I'm not sure if that's something that Charlotte FC did. But my last question, if you had to sing a song for your initiation, or if you've done one in the past, what song would you pick?
A lot of clubs have sung "Stand By Me" by Sam Cooke.
All right, give us a quick rendition. Come on.
No,
come on.
We're not doing that. We're definitely not doing that. No.
Oh, he's gone. Why? I thought I had you.
No, nearly.
Nearly. We'll get you one day. All right, Nathan, thank you so much for joining us on Crown Corner. It was a pleasure. We hope to see you on the pitch very, very soon.
Thank you very much. That
was, of course, Nathan Byrne, one of Charlotte FC's newest signings. So excited to see him on the pitch once his visa allows. And I think he's going to be a huge asset for this side. Honestly, I know we do have fullbacks right now, but having watched him a little bit in the championship, I think he's got a different sort of engine on him, a different awareness defensively. And it's always good to have competition. Looking back, of course, at the elephant in the room, we'll reflect a little bit on that 3-2 home loss against Chicago. Willie P will be joining shortly with his thoughts as well. And I think the only way you can describe it is a disappointment. Bank of America Stadium has become a really good place for Charlotte FC lately. And I just feel like we didn't have that same ruthlessness, the same fearlessness in this match as we've got used to seeing. The perfect start, as I mentioned in the broadcast, a dream start with Jordi Reyna's goal. Jalen Lindsay deserved a lot of credit on that one as well. Game plan seemed to be going perfectly with that press. Unfortunately, Jordi Reyna's going to be looking around wondering what he has to do at this point to score a goal and it not come back to haunt him. That early goal right now, twice for Charlotte FC in under 30 seconds, has now ended in a loss for us on both occasions. So I think that shows sometimes that we slowed down, we took our feet off the gas, maybe got a little bit complacent in where we were at in the match, and Chicago came back to haunt us. And like I say, I think it's just a deflating performance in a lot of ways. I do think there was fight from the guys. I do think the goals that we scored were well, and there were a lot of positives from that match. But, you know, it's hard not to feel so overwhelmingly disappointed when home games are really our opportunity to climb the table. And when you lose to a team that's also in and around that playoff position, you do yourself a lot of damage in those ways. And now we've got a really difficult couple of games on the road, LAFC, NYCFC, two teams contending for that Supporters' Shield role. And it's going to be hard to pick up points. Now, MLS is a strange league. It's one of those leagues where anyone can beat anyone on any given day, but travel has obviously not been a strong point for Charlotte FC. I think one of the biggest concerns as well from that Chicago game was the departure of Guzman Corujo. And obviously early signs. Manager Latanzio said in the press conference, things aren't looking great in terms of his injury. And hopefully we'll have more news on that. And it isn't as bad as originally seen, but real concerns over Guzman Corujo. And he has been a stalwart in that defensive line. He's been vital to a lot of Charlotte FC's cohesiveness. And I think that he will be a huge loss for however long he is out on the pitch. Also, the news today broke or yesterday rather, this airing on Wednesday, of course, that Sergio Ruiz has now left. And I think we all wish him the well, the club's first signing. And I think he will be missed by a lot of players. And it was really touching to see everyone offer their tributes to him on social media. So we wish Sergio Ruiz the best. And hopefully we can have these extra incoming players come in, Santos, of course, and hopefully they can have an impact whenever they're able to be cleared and all ready to go. But I think if there's one word to really describe last weekend, it was disappointing, but now we move on. And that's the best thing about soccer is the games come quick, they come fast, and we have an opportunity now to prove what we can do against LAFC, one of the toughest opponents that we're going to face all season. So looking forward to that one. Looking forward to the call, of course, WFNZ. It's going to be a late night party, 10 p.m. pre-game show, 10:30 kickoff. Please join us, help keep us awake. I know Willie P's goal calls will definitely keep me awake. Speaking of Willie P, he wanted to make sure that he got an opportunity to share his thoughts. So Willie P will follow. Thank you so much for joining us on Crown Corner, of course, guys.
Thank you, Jess. And let's just say the crisp supremacy chatter is always something I continue to be marveled at whenever we talk to our friends from the land of England. That's the one thing I also, from the standpoint of the Mac and Bone food fight stuff that you guys did with the British and English food, I never got any of the crisps. I got the Kit Kat Chunkies. You brought in the orange egg that nobody liked. And yet I'm sitting here and I don't have any crisps. So, I mean, what gives? What gives? Willie P, Mr. Foodie, I need me some crisps. I'm just kidding. And of course, Jess and I will hook back up once again on Saturday for a game against LAFC. Don't know if Nathan Byrne or any of the new signings will feature in that, but I do love what Byrne said about the championship being a level type league. And I think that's something we think about from MLS's standpoint, a league where anyone can beat anybody on any given weekend. We saw that markedly on Saturday when Philadelphia went down to FC Cincinnati in a game that the folks from FC Cincinnati called probably their finest hour in Major League Soccer because of how much that game meant, not just for Cincinnati in the playoff standings. They leapfrogged us and got themselves securely above the playoff line, but also the fact that Philadelphia has come in and been probably one of the strongest teams, if not the strongest team in all the Eastern Conference. So it is a league that rivals a lot of some of these other leagues that have that parity like the English Championship do. And I do feel like he, having had that experience very similar to Kamil Jozwiak, can certainly benefit from playing in this league where there is always an edge to your game. And unfortunately for Charlotte FC, it's that edge that seems to kind of elude them and evade them. For the second time in 4 weeks, they dropped points from a winning position, I should say, in their loss to Chicago Fire. And I got to wonder what Jordi Reyna's got to do to try and get himself a game-winning goal, or at least a goal in a winning effort, because the two games that he's gotten goals, they have had, unfortunately, a negative tinge to them with regards to Miami as well as Chicago Fire. But I do feel like this team will come in to LAFC with a little bit of desperation. I feel like they have to, especially off the news of Guzman Carujo's injury. And we still have not got necessarily any particulars, at least at this time of the recording. I know we're going to hear from Christian Latanzio in between the time that I record this and the time that it airs on Crown Corner. But it does seem to me like this weekend probably it's a little bit ambitious to get him back in, and if not beyond that. So we'll see whether or not any news comes out there more concretely between the time that we're done and the time that this hits the air. But I do feel like from Charlotte FC's standpoint, they are going to have to try and play a little bit more touch perfect when it comes to the way that they play their defense. We did not necessarily see them play with their best face in the face of the transitions from Chicago Fire. You saw Christian Fuchs kind of barreling back on a ball with Kacper Shabilko and not necessarily doing so in a way that gave Charlotte FC the best opportunity to defend. I know that some people have criticized Anton Walks as well, too. I don't know if necessarily it was something that I saw as part of his game, but you definitely saw a difference in the way they defended against Chicago Fire than the way we've become accustomed to seeing them defend here in recent weeks, with the exception of the two games previous to this, Miami and Toronto FC. And it's something that's become a bit of a concern right now for Charlotte FC, because I think the one thing that we always kind of were worried about was actually the offensive side. And the script has unfortunately turned in a way for them that I do feel like, from the standpoint of Charlotte FC, you need to at least have a little bit more what I would call concern about the way that they looked in that phase of play. They're certainly scoring goals now, which is something that I feel like should be lauded and applauded. The fact that, we did get Karol Swiderski to get a goal, his 7th of the season, and Yordi getting one early. I don't think that's necessarily the problem. It's about making sure you still have that edge and making sure that you're not lagging back on defense. And there needs to just be a little bit more nasty, I feel like. And that's something that we've asked a lot of players about over the course of this season. I know Quinn McNeil has provided that in the midfield, and we've seen different players provide that with a different variability, but now it needs to kind of come from all 11, and I'm curious to see where that comes from going into this weekend. And a game where, like I said, Charlotte FC, you're going up against a team that's got probably some of the most superstar-laden talent in the entire league. When you have, Arango at the striker, when you have Carlos Vela, when you have Chiellini at the back, Gareth Bale coming off the bench, any team that can bring Gareth Bale off the bench, I'm not saying that this has last year Miami vibes, but I'm wondering what kind of creative accounting is going on right now in the LAFC coffers. But they've either gotten everybody to kind of be bought down or use some TAM or done some creative accounting in terms of that. But they've put together quite a squad under Steve Cherundolo, and they are just dominating folks, and doing so not just from their guys in the starting 11, but they're bringing off guys off the bench like Bale, who just have that sensational superstar capability. And it'll be something to behold for Charlotte FC, and a big, big moment for them. These next 2 weeks against next 2 contests, I should say, against LAFC and NYCFC. I think one of these two's got to be a must result. And by result, I don't necessarily mean tie. If you want to at least try to make up for the errors and the wounds of the last couple of weeks, dropping points at home is never a good idea in this time of the year, especially when you're thinking about trying to get yourself in the range of a playoff spot. And they still are in range. I mean, we talk a lot about how some of these results have kind of gone by the wayside, especially the ones outside of our purview. But they're still a point away from the playoff line. It's just now the room around them is a lot more crowded. So it puts a lot more of an emphasis on these individual results to try and at least give you something forward and give you something to play for here once these new signings come into play. And we've had an opportunity to kind of react to some of these guys on our broadcasts on Saturdays. But I have to tell you, I'm very excited for Nuno Santos to get himself here. So Santos is somebody who more and more people who I talk to really describe him as it's almost like you get out of him what we wanted to get out of Titi Ortiz. And no offense to Titi, but I do feel like a lot of players, the physicality of this league really was kind of something that took him abruptly by surprise. And as a result, while you did see a lot of the offensive nature from Titi Ortiz at times and a lot of that sparkling magician-like characteristic with the ball, it was a one-sided type player. And I think that Nuno Santos brings a little bit more of that nasty in the midfield that we've been lacking outside of a couple of players in certain instances during this season. Adelson Malanda might be called on a little bit more than we might have initially thought after what happened to Guzman Carrujo, again, depending on the reports that we hear coming up from Christian Latanzio. But we'll see whether or not he factors in the center back room, especially because of the fact that it seems like Christian Fuchs, while earlier on in the season might have been looked at as a very adequate replacement at the center back position, don't know if that's something that you want to trust for a full 90, especially down the stretch of this season in the campaign. We'll see whether or not Malanda factors in or whether Jan Zawachinski steps up and is alongside Anton Walks as well. From the standpoint of Nathan Byrne, he's somebody who's going to compete right away at the right back spot. I have no doubt, because this is not a knock on either Lindsay or Harrison Awful. I think both players have had adequate moments and great moments. Harrison Awful, think about what happened with him in Greenville. He was somebody who I think really kind of galvanized a lot of people around him. And that moment especially, I do feel like really gave Charlotte FC, a lot of those guys rallying around him, because that was a situation in game where a lot of guys who hadn't gotten a lot of minutes for them really kind of rallied around together to get that victory in Greenville. And it allowed at the time, Miguel Angel Ramirez, to take a look at some different guys and start utilizing them in the lineup. And I think that's also kind of where Christian Latanze took the baton and started using a lot more guys. And we saw Awful really be a future or featured part, I should say, in the lineup from that point forward. But I do wonder whether or not there's a situation where you can get a player in Byrne who almost feels like the best characteristics between the two, between Harrison Awful and Jalen Lindsey, someone who's a pretty good defender, but also not afraid to go forward and offer you something. I think that's one thing we've said is that Awful, if you're wanting somebody going forward, he's your guy. And if you're wanting somebody who is more defensive, Jalen Lindsey is that guy. I will say, though, Lindsey probably played one of his better matches in the contest last Saturday. So I'm looking forward to possibly seeing him back out there against LAFC, because I think he played and took a really marked step forward. He's somebody who they're definitely looking forward to seeing develop over the course of his time at Charlotte FC, especially after getting that new contract before the season. But Byrne is somebody who you're bringing in to possibly be a go-getter going forward, and also try to provide that step defensively as well for Charlotte FC. But LAFC is a tough customer, as is NYCFC. Even without Tati Castellanos, they still have got a lot of players that you have to account for on their side. Not just Talis Mango up in the middle and up front, but also Alexander Callens, the fantastic defender, and Sean Johnson has been one of the best goalkeepers in the league this season when it comes to clean sheets. It'll be a very, very tall task to kind of have that double, even though New York City FC will be playing in the Red Bulls home stadium for a weirdness in that game, because they're not able to use their full stadium, Yankee Stadium, on a full basis. So they've had to play some games in alternate sites, including Citi Field, home of the Mets, and they're having to share the Red Bulls home in Harrison, New Jersey. So it'll be a little bit of an odd situation. Might not be a true home crowd for NYCFC, but the other part of that too that benefits Charlotte FC is you don't have to play it on the oblong pitch that is Yankee Stadium. If you're new to the league and new to watching games against NYCFC, the pitch that they play basically is at the bare minimum of width that you're allowed to basically play with when it comes to Major League Soccer, and it leads to some higher scoring contests and some pretty crooked numbers that are put up in games involving the team that wears the light blue in New York City. But we're looking forward to at least seeing what these two teams could do at least, against us. And obviously, from our standpoint, hoping to see if we can pull out a result or two, or maybe even a couple of draws. I think 2 draws wouldn't be the worst thing in the world for Charlotte FC, especially given the opposition that you're going against. But if you can steal 3 points from either of these two squads, that definitely puts you in a better scenario than you are going into this double, because after this, it still doesn't let up. There's still a couple of games at home that you still have to account for. Orlando is up next, the next home contest. You have Toronto, which is a revenge game. We found out that they are much stronger than their record shows because of the additions that they had with Bernadeschi and as well as Lorenzo Insigne. So as a result, you're going to have to be on your P's and Q's when you get them here in the final weekend of August. I did want to at least remark as well on the time of Sergio Ruiz at Charlotte FC. We got the news early Tuesday that it is official. He is departing for Granada and La Liga 2, going back to Spain. And, you know, I always kind of figured there was a couple of games ago after he had started a couple of games in a row where he was not included in the squad. And, you know, I was kind of asking the question, you know, is it tactical or is something else afoot? And I think we kind of got the feeling that the writing was on the wall, that some sort of move was in the works and in play. From all accounts, Sergio really loved his time here in Charlotte. For whatever reason, he decided to go back overseas, whether it was family, whether it was, you know, the newborn baby and the stresses that involved that. And also, we know that some of the issues from his mental health, obviously, we want to be respectful for that. I know that he really overcame a lot to even get himself in a state that was good enough to play here, but just an amazing, amazing young man. We had a chance to talk to him on more than a couple of occasions. Always just bright smile and fantastic demeanor about him. And he'll always go down as somebody who was Charlotte FC's first ever signing, and somebody who was here before they even had a logo or a name to them. And I think that's something that really made him resonate with the fans as much as he possibly could, because they could always identify with that guy. And we followed his career while he was at Las Palmas, and they did the big, great video feature. I think it was Caleb and Ryan really did a fantastic job talking with him a couple of times over the course of his time while he was still in Spain, and did the whole move over and stuff like that. And I really love that somebody of that nature was able to take part in this club. I'm kind of sad that it's not going to be any longer than this past weekend. Seeing him score that first goal against Nashville was one of the more gratifying things to see during this season, because he was somebody who definitely deserved a goal. And if he had left here without that in his account, that it would have felt very unjust. But I do feel like a lot of Charlotte FC fans will take that departure. It seems a lot of these other departures made a lot of sense to people because of the fact that some guys had fallen out of favor. But this one is probably the one that stings the most. And we hope that everything goes well for Sergio and he finds what he's looking for in Spain, because this is one where I feel like when you see your first ever signing go by the wayside, it always kind of hurts a little bit extra. But I think we definitely all feel the love for number 6 from his time at Charlotte FC. We're on the air Saturday coming up at 10 o'clock, as just mentioned, a little MLS After Dark for the game against LAFC. 10:38 first kick at Bank of California Stadium in the shadow of the Los Angeles Coliseum in downtown LA. So hoping to get ourselves an opportunity to kind of do what FC Cincinnati did this past weekend, and that's shock MLS and put up one of those score lines that makes you go, ooh, with regards to the way that these things go in MLS. Anyone can beat anybody in any given week when it comes to this league and this squad. And I do feel like that this squad will have a desperate nature about them. And I do feel like they will come out and try to show their best selves under Christian Lattanzio. Thanks to Jess. Thanks to Nathan Byrne. And thank you to you for watching our special presentation of Crown Corner this evening. We'll talk to you on the broadcast Saturday on our Sports Radio 92.7 WFNZ flagship and the Charlotte FC Radio Network.